dropping the, oh, you hit like a girl. And how do you advise parents who their kids are looking at memes and they're funny, but they're a little bit edgy and sexist, whatever. And, oh, mom, no, it was a joke. It's just for fun. So there's that place where we can step in as parents to say, yeah, and this isn't okay, and here's why, and then we can have all the conversation. But the more challenging place is your son's in 5th grade. He hears another boy call somebody gay or somebody a girl. What do you advise parents? What strategies, what words can they give to their kids to confront those situations peer to peer? Because it's really easy to just let it go. And I think even for adults, it's kind of easy to just like, oh, I don't want to confront this person. I'm just going to let it slide. And I think we're past the age of letting things slide, but our kids need strategies. They need words to use in that situation.
Yeah. So for me and how my kids deal with it, it's really about having a personal connection with what you're saying. So in that circumstance where you're talking about something's gay, and I've heard his friends say it, and after the fact, I'll say, hey, I overheard this, and, I overheard, someone saying, oh, that's gay. And, my son said, well, they didn't mean gay. They meant, exactly. Bad gay. Yeah. And I said, well, okay, but that's not, I said, the word is the word. And I point to my relatives. I said, how would your Aunt Melinda feel if she knew that you were okay with saying something was gay, meaning it was bad? I'm like, are you saying that she's bad? He's like, well, no, of course not, And so like that personal connect now, all right, now you have a face that you put with it and you have an actual person. So when you say these things, your kids realize that they're hurting this actual person who they love very much. And I found that to be really effective. So whether it's a friend, a gay friend or a gay relative, that's a lot more personal than just saying, hey, gay people would be upset. That's kind of an abstract thing. But when you have, hey, Aunt Melinda's going to be upset with you when you say this, that hits home a lot more. Yeah.
But it's still, I'm going to push you a little bit because I still want to know what your son could say to his friend who has said the gay slur.
I tell him to step right in and say, that's not cool. Shouldn't say that. Mm-hmm. And that's what he's done. And some, I'll be very honest. This is not something that's worked every time. And it is something that has ended some friendships, to be very honest. My son said, it's not okay to say that someone's gay. Don't say that. And, a bunch of people said, oh, I'm sorry, and they've stopped doing it. Other people said, oh, stop, I'm not doing that. And my kids don't hang out with those kids anymore, not by my choosing, but by their own. And that's going to happen. And it's really hard. I'm not saying that's an easy thing. It's a really hard thing. And it's a hard lesson to learn so early. And it does lead to potential problems, with bullying. And, once that kid turns against you, and if that kid has a lot of friends, it can get ugly, and it has gotten ugly. And there's no easy answer for that. I'm not going to pretend that there's a cure-all for anything like that. There isn't, but I just have to keep telling my son that he's on the right side of this and that he'll be better for it in the end, which frankly doesn't really help him a lot right now. No. But that's the tack I'm taking.
This is one that I still fight with and struggle with in my house. My boys are older than yours. My youngest is now 14, and then 17 and 19 are both still home. And I still routinely will hear from them or a friend who's over, gay, no homo, all the things you write about in your book. And I call them on it every time. And I'm so freaking tired of it. And sometimes I think they are just doing this to see if I will react, right? Like, should I just ignore it? But I at least want my voice to be the one that they hear in their head, even if they roll their eyes. And I do have a lot of sympathy. I have a lot of respect for boys, for your son to stand up to friends and say, that's not cool. That is hard to do. It is so hard to do.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to respect those boys and at the same time hold space for the boys who aren't ready to speak up, who are just desperately trying to survive in boy culture, which, as you know from personal experience and now watching your sons come through, it's brutal.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember, listening to one of my favorite groups was Boys to Men when I was growing up. And I can't tell you how much trouble that caused me. Like, it sounds stupid now, but it's completely true. I was the gayest kid alive for liking Boys to Men when I was 11, 12 years old. And,
never mind that they have tight harmonies, right? Like
I was a singer. My grandmother was in Tanglewood in the Boston Pops. So she was a professional singer and musician, and I loved it. I wasn't going to back down from that, but it didn't help me. It made my life miserable. Yes. And I know that my son, even though he does, I know that I've seen him stand up to people about that, but I also know that there are times when he doesn't, because he's also trying to fit in, and I can't make him do it every time. I can't. It's not feasible or realistic, but I do hope that when push comes to shove, he's going to step in and defend people and call out what's wrong and stand up for what's right most of the time. And that's all I can ask, and it's so hard.
And I hope, and I know Janet does as well, that this will get easier, because you're one family doing it and I'm one family trying to do it. So as there are more and more and more of us, hopefully the culture will start shifting. But right now we are all very much in this moment of transition, and, we're trying to figure it out and survive. And so are our boys.
Exactly. Right on.
You went viral a couple years ago. You wrote about the fact that your son, Sam, who was then a kindergartner. Now, parents, think about this. He was a kindergartner, so he's like 5, maybe he hit 6.
Yeah, he was 5.
5 years old. He got bullied at school for wearing nail polish. Now, I understand, as so do you and everybody listening, like, historically here in America, that has been women wear it, but literally it's a 5-year-old with paint on a non-essential part of the body. Talk about that experience, what happened to him, how that affected him, and how that affected you and led to this book ultimately.
Yeah, that was a crazy time. It was October 2018, and he was 5, but really he had been wearing nail polish for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and that's because my mom, his grandmother, was a manicurist. My mom paints my kid's nails, and that was never a problem. Honestly, we did it from the time he was maybe 3, and he went to preschool. Never a problem, never an issue, never a word. But he did it at kindergarten, and it was a completely different story. He got there, and he was, there was one kid who stood up for him, one kid. The rest of them said, boys don't wear nail polish. What are you doing? You need to take it off. That's not right. Don't do that. We teach our kids, unless they're in danger, physical danger, try and talk your problems out, which he did. He tried to talk it out all day to no avail. And when my wife picked him up at school, he fell apart. He was inconsolable, to the point where she had to call me at work because she couldn't get out of him what was wrong. And so, finally we figured out that it was about his nails, and it was really sad. We came home and I came home from work that night, and I asked him, how are you feeling? And he said he wanted to take off the nail polish. And I said, all right, well, do you really want to take it off because you don't want to wear it, or do you just not want to be made fun of? And he said, no, I love the nail polish. I just don't want to be made fun of. So I said, all right, buddy. I said, how about you keep it on overnight, and in the morning, if you still feel that way, then,